call yourself a business today. You don't have to LLC. You're a business right now. Like today's the...
Well, absolutely. Well, the grant, there's $100,000 that will be split among 5 winners of 20K.
Welcome to the Infinite Creative Podcast. My name is Fitz, and this is...
And I'm Sean. And today we are joined with David Axler. He is the Chief Strategy Officer over at Wave. And over there, they actually have kind of a new grant that they're working with the Shorty Awards on that he's going to talk to us about. But yeah, thank you. Thank you, David, for coming on.
No, great to be here. I'm excited to talk about ways to help creatives and small business owners. So our mission is really predicated on a belief that small business owners are the heart and soul of our community and our economy, and they deserve the same level of support that massive enterprises do, but they don't really have the time or the means to go out and find those solutions. And so really from that idea, Wave was born, and what it is in practice is an all-in-one business management platform so that small business owners can focus their time on what they do best, which is running their business, and increase their confidence that they're doing it correctly. Because what they're doing is already hard enough, whether you are a yoga instructor or a tutor or running a plumbing business, those things are really, really hard. You're not necessarily going to find the time to master double entry accounting or try to build your own CRM system. And so we really aim to take that pain away through simplicity. So we give you your time back and increase your confidence to run your business and do what you do best.
Yeah. And I just want to say, so I'm kind of a long-term user of Wave. So when I kind of heard that that you're going to be coming on the podcast, I got really excited because, I've used Wave Financial. I've used your invoicing for at least 5 or 6 years now. And I remember before that, we've had some talks on this podcast of like, the creative, because we're both creative. So like, telling a creative to come up with invoices can be like, a nightmare, right? Like they could take hours to design this perfect invoice and get, what I loved about Wave is it really just took it out of that arena for me. It was like, you don't have to be creative, just input it into this thing. Making an invoice, making an estimate should take very little time. And I know that was the biggest thing for me. Like early on, I would waste hours creating these things. And now it's something like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I just love the automation.
Yeah, I think what we found is that for many creatives and small business owners, they don't want to become an F1 driver or a NASCAR driver of invoicing and accounting. They want self-driving. I want this to go away. I don't want to have to do the thinking. My decision or cognitive load is spent all day on other decisions. Just please make this easy. And that's really the ethos of what we do, that there's not a lot of, payroll hobbyists who are on the weekend are ticking around like, how do I get better at this? I need it to be on time. I need to be correct. And I want it to not take up as much mental real estate as all the other things that I've spent the rest of my day on. And really, I think that resonates with, folks like yourself. I'm a Wave user. I've got family members who use it as well. And so I'd like to give them their time back as well.
Oh, yeah. Very awesome.
Yeah. So on this note, though, how would you like to see the grant being used? Let's say you're a young professional or creative and you win. Let's say, what are the first, second, third prize? What do they win, and how should it be used from your perspective, or what would be good ways?
Well, absolutely. Well, the grant, there's $100,000 that will be split among 5 winners of 20K. And really the way that we see the grant being used is, the first is to remove some of those initial barriers that small business owners see in the way of really growing their business to what they believe they can achieve. And first, it starts with, can you get your business organized in a way that allows you to do some of those things? So one of the categories are there tools, resources, or expertise that with this money, you now have the ability to do something that may have otherwise felt impossible or far-reaching? And can you find the support, whether it's through tools like Wave or whether it's through expertise that you yourself don't want to become a master of, that can allow you to bring your gift to the world in a different way? So it's really about removing the barriers to running a business that you really feel confident in going forward.
That's awesome. I mean, it's really amazing. I mean, and so for everyone out there, I guess, because we didn't really give a URL yet. So I mean, where can we find? Where can people kind of find more information on this?
Absolutely. So they can go until September 15th. So applications are open until September 15th on the Shorty Awards website. It's www.shortyawards.com/elevate-creatives. So hopefully we can share that in the notes
definitely will be in the description for sure. And we're going to be quick at getting this podcast out. So for all of you guys watching, you probably have a week to still get into this. So it's crunch time, but us creatives, we're really good with the crunch time. We're really good with the deadline tomorrow. So
are we? Procrastination is like a problem sometimes with the young creatives.
I think they need the crunch time. Without the crunch time, it's just another thing on the thing. So we've done that for you by giving you about a week.
Yeah. So on that note, though, what are like the things they should look out for when they are like applying? What are like best practices, or what are the criteria that you are looking forward, and who's judging for it on that?
Yeah. So a couple of things there. I think what we're looking for is to understand really the nature of your business and the why, and what are you hoping to do once you can really build this up from maybe it's an idea stage, maybe you just started as like so many businesses do out of necessity or a hobby. Give us the story. We want to hear about you, your business, the why, and what do you hope to do with that? If Wave and the Shorty Awards can be a part of that story, that's great. That's really what we're in the business of in the first place, of making what felt out of reach now possible. So if we can know what you're reaching for, that's fantastic. We've got a panel of really great small business owners themselves and small business experts to help judge on the criteria of innovation, creativity, and need. And we'll select those winners in November of this year. So we'll give ourselves the opportunity to read through these great stories and hear about what these great entrepreneurs are going to do with the funding that they should hopefully receive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's very nice. I mean, so I guess I do have one question. So it seems like this is very forward leaning, right? Which you kind of want some of these applicants to say. So I guess so with that being said, so with Wave's mission, I see that there's new tools coming out, and you guys are kind of constantly not constantly, I shouldn't say, but you are creating kind of new touch points. What does the future look for Wave and things like this? Is this something, things like this fun, is this something that you guys are going to kind of do more of these kind of outreach to the freelancers themselves? Is that something we'll see more and more of?
Yeah, no, I think constantly is actually very appropriate in terms of how we see ourselves changing and evolving. Cool. When we first started Wave, we saw it as a gap in the marketplace for tools for small business owners. But the small business environment itself has changed dramatically during that time. And I think the creator economy is probably the biggest change that we've witnessed over the last 5 or 6 years, where almost a quarter of small business owners are in some ways connected to the creative economy. Part of that, I think, was the nature of technology changing, that it made what was previously very expensive or inaccessible now possible. So you can start businesses in a way and reach people in a way that you couldn't 5 or 10 years ago. And so that's been a big change that we want to be able to empower the business end of that, or the back office part of that. So that's dictated change both on the product side, but also how we connect with different communities. I think the Shorty Awards is a great example of that. The second change, I think, partly due to the pandemic, is that it changed the nature of work, where work is performed, how it's delivered, who you connect to. So we saw in our business, you talked about using our invoicing platform. In March 2020, we saw a massive shift in the way folks get paid from in-person to online, and just the rise in digital payments as much more pervasive way of getting paid. And for a lot of our business owners, they were used to getting a check or asking for the cash. And just that's, I mean, in some ways it's subtle, but in other ways it's pretty monumental change in their business meant that we needed to meet the business owners where they're going, which is much more online. The work is not necessarily performed in the place where the customer is. And my audience or my community can be very distributed, meaning, so I need better ways of communicating with my customers or my audience, tracking, connecting. And so we've made a lot of change and continue to make a lot of change in our product, our offering, and how we connect to creators and small business owners, because their lives are really changing at a pretty fast and exciting pace.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got actually like a story with like the new payment system, like there's Zelle, Venmo, and all those other things, and they're very instant. But if you send it to the wrong account, this can be like a major problem nowadays. So I like the old school way, because you can like, oh, I sent it to the wrong account. At least you can work with the banks to get it back. Yeah. So how do you see the future evolving with those payment systems and how everything is being processed so fast? And is there like any like security or something that you guys implement for like help?
Absolutely. So this is really kind of cornerstone of what Wave does, which is we're a software company, but we're very much a financial services company. And your point around Zelle, Venmo, there's other peer-to-peer ways of getting paid, have made the process of getting paid easier in some ways. It's also increased the risk on both the customer and the business side. And that risk falls into a couple of categories. So firstly, there's fraud risk. There's kind of chargeback risk. What happens in the refund situation with Zelle? It's not necessarily on Zelle's. So that's where Wave spends a lot of our time and our investment in our own product and resources to make sure there's things like chargeback protection, fraud checks, all the things around, not to get too deep into compliance, but AML and know your customer. We do all of the things that a rigorous licensed money mover has to do to help protect our merchants. The second piece is that when a payment is made, that's one part of the story. The other area that you need to capture is the records of that payment, because the tax implications that happens at the end of that story. And so Wave is somewhat unique in the sense that we're also an accounting platform. And we take away and we abstract the pain of when I got paid, how should my books look? We just want that to be seamless, because the vast majority of folks, when they get paid for the first time, it's a what do I do now moment. And if we can make that simple and just done, then that's just time that they now have to spend on their business or confidence they have to do more of that business. So that's really the place where Wave plays to really do the heavy lifting behind the scenes, so that our customers don't have to master that area of their business.
One of the biggest things that brought me to Wave, I was like, okay, there's QuickBooks, there's these other things, but I'll tell you, the biggest thing that brought me to the platform was that simple, secure pay link in the invoice. I mean, just the legitimacy that creates. Even today, when I have a client that's like, oh, dang, how are we going to do this? Should I call you with a card? I'm like, nope, just pay straight from the invoice, super easy. They see those kind of little credit card icons. It's all that kind of back end stuff. Like I said, there's a lot of not sexy things happening behind the scenes to make that good, but just that little link, people are like, oh, cool, that's awesome. I'm going to pay right now. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that QuickBooks is a phenomenal product, but one of the things that I think differentiates Wave from QuickBooks is actually built for accountants, and it's for complexity and configurability of tax expertise. We've really designed for the business owner that is the head of ops, the CFO, the head of marketing, the product themselves. That is all one person, and that piece of legitimacy, like that's not necessarily a thought that a product owner would have to make for an accountant. That is for the business owner of how am I making life better for them? How am I removing the friction in what could be like an awkward moment? Like asking for the payment for the first time for a creative or for an entrepreneur, it feels weird.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And how do you make what should be a real celebration moment feel like that instead of like, oh, this is icky. I'm actually gonna get them to pay me. My business now. It's really weird.
Yeah.
How do we just remove the friction in that process altogether? And it comes from designing for the business owner as the real kind of hero of who we're building for.
I love that. That is like such a neat thing. Is there like, what is like the most commonly used or most important feature of Wave? Because like Sean is using the invoice a lot, and I do invoices sometimes through other softwares, but I'm switching softwares left and right, what is like not good. And I need to really commit to one, and I'm just like, I'm a mess. And Sean is like organized and he's using one software. But what is like the best thing about Wave?
So, well, I'll answer that in two ways. The best thing about Wave is that it is an all-in-one system that has interoperability with each other. So as a small business owner, I don't have to go find an invoicing platform and now another accounting platform and now another payroll platform and now another CRM that I'll hopefully stitch together. It's all in one. And so it's the interoperability that's, for many of our customers, more important than any one particular product itself. It's not having to shift around. And to your first question, what are most people using? What we find is that most of our business owners and creatives, they come with a specific need as opposed to I need all in one. They're not thinking of all in one. It usually starts with some sort of moment. Often, I just did some work for someone. I need to get paid. What do I do? And the most common entry point is our invoicing solution. So you'll start with invoicing. You'll spin up an invoice. It will take you 2 seconds. You send it over. And then the next question is like, how are they going to pay me? Well, you just turn on payments and they can pay you on the credit card link. And what do I need to do about this receipt that I have? Well, you'll just scan the receipt. And over time, they're using more and more of the platform without necessarily a conscious, I need this product and I need this product. It's more just as the nature of my business evolves and I have that need, I'm going to use more and more of Wave. So really the most common entry points are invoicing because I got paid, our receipts feature because they're looking at a shoebox of receipts and it's tax time and saying, what am I supposed to do? So they just start snapping pictures on their phone and it's automatically captured. And then accounting and bookkeeping is probably the third most common, and payroll probably being the fourth. But we see a lot of cross-product adoption in our
I love that
with our customers, because that's the nature of what we're trying to do is make it all in one, so you don't have to build a financial management stack of 4 tools for a company of 1 person.
So there's another thing that I'm very excited to talk about, because like when you shop around for like solutions of your problem, be it invoicing, be it accounting and whatever, you guys really stand out with like the pricing that you got there. So you got me at like that, the free entrance, and I'm like, what? It's free? And then there's a competitor out there where the accountant software where they charge top dollar, got bad reviews in some cases because the approach that they take is a little bit, money making, where you guys are like more really focused on the business. So can you talk a little bit more about the pricing and what makes you guys special in that aspect?
Yeah, so I think what we really are is freemium, right? We're not free. They're like Wave makes money, so we're not a charity. But the way that we've strategized around how we build product is that where can we remove the barrier to entry for the business owner to get that initial help that they need to start. As they evolve and as they grow and thrive, that's where we'll monetize, or that's where we'll start to charge. But the barrier to get started, to make a simple invoice or get your receipts captured or your books, we've found it actually very effective to run a business by making those tools free and very high quality, and understanding how business owners are going to evolve and creatives are going to evolve. And as they grow, we'll be able to meet them with premium features on which they monetize, as opposed to give us your credit card before you've seen a single thing of value. And, we'll let you know when our pricing has gone up like Netflix, every 6 months. We're very much in the trust business. That's what the kind of accounting and payments and payroll, all of this is predicated on trust. And we take it very seriously in terms of how we build relationships with our customers at scale. And what we found is that removal of that pricing barrier for the very early and just getting started companies and customers has really been a big part of Wave's story and success.
Oh yeah, I mean, for me, I know it was kind of a why not thing, right? Like, it's free, and for anyone out there, I know once you start to do research into these things, especially creatives, you start to see payment processing fee, and that can get kind of scary, right? You're like, oh, well, so I have to pay a percentage of every invoice. But my easy answer to that to most creatives out there, and I don't know if David can give this kind of push, but I definitely can, of like, just put it in the invoice, just build it into the cost, right? Like, so if that's your worry of using a tool like this, I don't want to pay that $5 or $10 to Wave, build it into the invoice, because I swear to you, it'll save so much time. I don't even look at what I pay Wave. I've probably given you guys thousands of dollars over the years with all of the invoices and things, but I don't care. I've saved how many hours? I mean, I've even had legal things and I've had nonprofit stuff where there's grants where they have to have a whole year and it has to be broken down line item. And there's just so many things that once you get into Wave and you kind of program Wave to do stuff for you, it was amazing. Right? I don't even, if I was still using like an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of stuff and things like that, I would have been sunk. There's a few times I literally would have been like, I can't even collect this money because I can't fight their accountant on this, where Wave is so great where it's like, well, no, we have metadata, we have tracked timed things that like I can point to, and that's so huge. Like, so what I tell people is like, you may not need Wave when the going's good or something like Wave, but when the going's bad, it's a huge life raft.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things there. We look at our customers who enable their invoices for digital payments versus those that don't, and two things stick out right away. The first is the speed of those payments. And it's not particularly close. You're talking about hours versus potentially weeks of trying to track down an invoice. The second is the ones that actually get paid. So small business owners know you don't have 100% hit rate on work delivered versus payment. And this interesting thing that we learned, one of the things that was driving success is we have two elements of our platform that allow Wave in a way to act as the collections agency as opposed to the creative or small business owner. And there are reminders that you can set on invoices to be paid, but it comes from Wave. And it takes a little bit of that awkwardness away from, hey, I'm chasing you for payment. It just came from Wave. I wasn't bothered. Yeah. We bothered you on that. As well as just being able to have a customer statement that you can send to any of your customers for the full amount of work that's been done over the life of a project or recently, and have that enabled for payment. So there's just a number of avenues that take the kind of Excel spreadsheet, trying to dial them up and find them wherever they are, out of the equation. So you can maintain that relationship with your community or your customers or an agency or whoever it is you're working with, but not have to worry about chasing the money.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. I mean, because I find that a lot, especially with us creatives, we do the creative stuff very well, right? But sometimes the clients don't necessarily trust us with numbers. And honestly, I don't blame them. Like sometimes, when we're talking about months and months of work and line items and PO numbers and all of these different things. So you're right. There's been so many times where I've gone, I got your automated message about the invoice. I'm like, oh, no, I don't send those. Sorry, that's from Wave completely. I don't even, and I could control that, obviously. But I'm like, I even act like, I can't even control that. That's just Wave. They want to get paid really.
They're the worst, right? 12 hours a day.
This guy David, he keeps calling me. He's like, "Get that invoice paid." Like, all right. Send an email, man. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's a nice feature. But also, I wanted to say like everything else has like transaction fees and whatever. And I think like also the good thing is like in the beginning, it's 100% free for the invoicing and for the accounting. It seems, and then later on, it's just like 60 cents or whatever per transaction, plus the small percentages.
Yeah, and so I do love that. And honestly, I haven't used even half of the stuff that's on there. I would like to get more into the kind of the tax side, things like that. So for someone like me, like I have an accountant, and he does a great job, and he can sometimes coach me. But the one thing I've found with accountants in the past is they don't really, especially with the small guys, right? So like they don't really have a lot of time for you if you're making $100,000 or less a year, really. And so with that, is there really an educational side to Wave? And has that come, or is that maybe in the future of like somehow having some educational aspect, like a Wave Academy or something like that?
So there's a few things that we have. Our content repository is massive. And so there's lots to learn about Wave and some of the basics that you need to know. The second is we drive insights within the product based on the activity of a creative or small business owner, meaning as you are getting paid, as you are logging transactions, we're starting to paint a picture for you as what's happening in your business. And that's typically not something that your accountant is doing on day to day. And the example I'll give is you're having a good month. Or are you? Like, is that a good month?
Don't remind us.
last month, what's going on in your business that if you just had a snapshot of all your money in and all your money out over a period of time can tell you what's actually happening. We make these kind of stories in our mind of things are way better than they are or absolutely terrible. But this gives an objective view as to, okay, actually, this is where I am relative to this same time last month or same time last year, or even within the month. And so the product itself is giving you greater understanding of what's happening. And then the third is we actually have an advisory group that can act as tax coaches, business coaches, and bookkeepers right in the product. If you write in accounting, you can just say, I want an advisor. And that's a paid service where we'll work with you on your books or other elements of your business every month, kind of a quasi-accountant-like service that we provide on top of our software.
That's interesting. I'm definitely, I may be checking that out here. Maybe on the next calendar year, I'll start to use that. So and I'm not sure if I read this correctly. So feel free to definitely correct me on this. But so for the Elevate Creatives Fund, there is an entry fee, but it sounds like that gets waived if you start a Wave account. It gets waived if you start a Wave account.
That's right. So just remember the word Wave, and you're fine. So for Wave users, the $40 fee is non-applicable.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So for all of you guys out there, if you're struggling post-pandemic, or you just have more goals, I would say start the free account with Wave, just to even get the application fee waived, and send out a couple invoices. I think for me, that's what really, I was like, I don't know, we'll see if this works. But then after sending a couple invoices, seeing how fast they got paid, like that day, next day, I think that's what sold me. So I think for a lot of people, I know especially creatives, you think about an accounting app, you think about these things, and you kind of just,
not a monthly expense, and with Wave you don't have that, but it's really powerful.
Yeah, and it's simple. It's just like the interface is really simple, which is why I like, because I've jumped into the QuickBooks world, and it's, oh my God, I'm just so overwhelmed so quickly, headache immediately. So I feel like with Wave, I've never been overwhelmed. I've felt like it's super easy to use.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Dave, is there anything else you'd like to share, I guess, about the Elevate Creatives Fund, and I guess just the future of Wave? Is there anything to kind of look out for?
Well, I mean, on the future of Wave, we are just continuing to find ways to make the creatives and small business owners' lives easier. That point you made on simplicity, that is where we are competing. That is where we try to be the absolute best. And there's just more and more that we're seeing available in terms of whether it's more financial services, leveraging AI. We're really excited about things that we can do in mobile. So continue to check out Wave. There's a lot of new stuff happening coming through. I won't spoil it because I know our product teams are working really hard right now to keep a tight lid on it. And just on the Elevate Fund, we'd really love to hear great stories. Often we hear about the top 1% creators that get a lot of airspace, and that's not who most creators are. They're small, they come from humble beginnings, and we want to help to really amplify your story, but we need to hear about them first. So we just love to see those entries.
That's so awesome. That's kind of where we're at, right? I mean, we've seen a lot of creative podcasts out there where, they have the rock stars of design, the rock stars of videography, where, we're the same. Like, where's the middle guys, right? Where's the lower guys that are working just as hard to produce cool stuff? And it sounds like that's kind of who you guys are angling towards too. Who are those people?
Yeah, right. And it's also really important to see, like, when you start out, you don't know how many tools are out there that can help you be brought forward so that you're doing a better job, basically. And Wave is definitely like a good opportunity in the creative fund as well. So you definitely should look out for opportunities like that as a young creative.
Oh, no, I was going to say is that most creators don't look anything like a Mr. Beast. Yet that is who you're seeing more than anyone. And that is really almost like an enterprise level business. And for the creators that are running as a business of one or a few, we want to understand your business all that much better, but we think that the community of creators have as much, if not more, to learn from those type of businesses than the ones that are just getting, tons of exposure based on just their size and reach today.
Nice. Well, it's really cool. Thank you, David. And for everyone here, definitely go into the description, look at these, click on the URLs that we're going to have there. Go check out Wave. I mean, if you're still making invoices in Photoshop, definitely go into Wave, give it a shot. It costs nothing until the invoice gets paid, type of thing. And try the funds. I used to be very against funds and things early on in my career, because I always felt like, well, I'm going to put in all this time, and then what if nothing happens, right? And what I kind of tell those people is like, even if you do this fund, let's say, and you don't make it, you don't make the cut, you still have something here, and you can always apply that to other things. So what I would tell people is this work can get reused. Don't ever feel like something like this is a waste of time. You're just creating touch points that help sell yourself. So this is a good reason to do that. Make a nice presentation, PDF or something, or just make a great bio of your company, and just use that going forward, improve that. So this is not a waste of time. This is only an opportunity.
Completely agree. And I think for the creatives that I've spoken to, just the simple act of doing your story and getting it down is an important moment of reflection. We don't take a lot of time to just pause and take stock of where we are, because there's just so many things to do. And there's just value in the act itself. So, really encourage you to find time for that as well.
Yeah. Another thing that I was thinking is a lot of people get an imposter syndrome when they're like, oh, am I really a business? Even they get paid, but they still think am I really an LLC? Am I really this and that? And I think those people need to be encouraged, that the fund is probably also for the really, really small creators, I assume, and businesses who maybe just make 10,000 or less, or.
Absolutely. That is where the majority of small business owners that are creatives are today. That is what they tend to look like, particularly as they're starting. And what we've found is that your point around not seeing themselves as business owners yet is 100% true. And that really carries itself into how they're running the business, where the line between business and personal gets very gray, right? Even from the way we do expenses. I've got a shoebox of expenses over here, and maybe I've gone to Costco to get a new microphone for my podcast business. But along the way, I'll ketchup, and I bought Doritos, and I bought printer paper. Now I can't even determine what was business and personal, and finding the way to decouple those things is part of growing the business. It's where Wave comes to play, but it's also a mental shift of there's me, there's my business, and yes, there's a lot of overlap between the two, but I'm starting to make a distinction between what those are. But when they just first start, it's almost a perfectly overlapped concentric circle that I am the business, there's nothing else.
Oh yeah, 100% of the time, because we talk about it a lot, where creatives especially have, their identity is so attached to their work, right? And I really, anyone who's a new creative, new business owner, I would say, the shortcut at the very beginning is understanding that this is a business, and that, and especially if you're leaving art school and you've kind of been business, corporate, the second you can realize that there's the creative side of you, and then there's the business side that makes money and solves people's problems. I mean, it took me probably 2 years of being a business to finally realize hey, Sean, you're an amazing designer, but you're a terrible business owner. So you can't have one overlap the other forever, right? They have to be this kind of blend of both. So, and I remember this magical moment with my accountant when I was thinking of starting an LLC and all this, and I thought it was so complex. I thought there was going to be all these things, and there was this moment where he's like, nah, it's not as bad as you think it is. It's a couple pieces of paper. We need some info, and it's this one cost. And I feel like with Wave, that's what I'm seeing, right? I'm seeing the whole no, it's not as bad as you think it is. The path to being a business is not this long, strenuous thing you need a degree for. It's something you can do fairly easy.
No, we know that a lot of creatives and really actually all small business owners often start with almost an allergy to business. They think about it in school as the selling of widgets for, the only reason you do it is so that there's some profit at the end of it. When we talk to our business owners, that's almost never the reason they've started their business. It's there's necessity where I had to do something, or passion, or what started off as a hobby all of a sudden got attention. It almost never starts as, what is the widget that I'm going to make today? And maybe I'm going to choose the square versus the triangle. It starts from a real, an authentic place. And as you get into it, that allergy starts to go away as you learn about what I can do. And when you're open to help, that space of what you can do gets even larger.
Yeah. So I'm also like very curious because you mentioned it like a moment ago where you talked like most people are small businesses. So what are like the data that you have on that? Because like from the outside, I'm like, is business going right now? Is it going good? Is it going bad? Because you probably see all the back end where everybody's like worried about the economy. For example, like what is like your take on the future right now, and what is your take on the small business world?
Well, we certainly see that the micro business segment, which is where we typically build for. So I think first, small business has a bit of a general description, and often people talk about SMBs, and they could be describing companies of 500 or less. When we're talking about small businesses, we're really talking about micro businesses, 5 employees or less, and that employs about 90% of businesses in the country. So it is a massive part of the economy. We saw quite a large growth of new business created during and post pandemic, and a number of reasons. There are just new types of businesses that needed to be formed. Also, there was a lot of business closure. And so out of necessity, one of the fastest ways to get back into the workforce was starting yourself, often as a freelancer, contract work. I'm going to perhaps do what I did in a larger company, but I'm going to do it on a contract basis. And so we've certainly seen growth in all time periods of our company, but in particular the last 2 years, as the small business economy has become a larger and larger part of the story in the country. And the creative economy is among the fastest parts of growth within the micro business segment for a lot of what we talked about at the outset, which is the nature of work changing, the way to reach customers, the way to reach audiences, how you can get your work done in different places than you typically would. And so we see that continuing. We're very bullish on creators and creatives being the kind of engine of the economy going forward.
Oh, I love that.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, super inspirational.
Yeah, like the inside of that is like right now I was like, is the future even like, going good or is it going bad? And like it seems like if you just do the right steps and there's money out there, there's creative funds, there's tools available.
Yeah. The barrier to entry has been reduced quite significantly. Like the examples of things we've been talking about today of getting professional made invoices, getting your books done, being able to run your payroll, having a collections agency to email your customer. 5-10 years ago, we're talking about thousands of dollars a month in just workflow. So you bring that down to close to zero, it just opens up a lot of possibilities for what a small business owner and creative can be doing.
Yeah.
So amazing. I mean, we live in a time of democratization. You see it all over the place. And it seems like you guys are on the forefront of democratization of small business, right? Of like, let's show people anyone can be an entrepreneur. If you have something out there, you'd be surprised how quickly you can spin that into a business. Yeah. I find myself doing that all the time, telling people where they do something amazing and they don't know how to make money with it. And, and I kind of guide them to tools like this of like, I can give you some of the answers, but just go to some of these things and play around, make that, what I also tell people too, and I'll say it again on this podcast is if you're out there and you've done a couple things, let's say you're a logo designer, you made a couple things for your uncle and things like that, or, something very small, call yourself a business today. You don't have to LLC. You're a business right now. Like today's the first day of business. Now move forward. I think that's half of it is you have to start calling yourself these things, right? If you think you're opposite of these things, then you're gonna have a hard time. But if you're like, you know what, I'm already a business. I should be having invoices. Let's just go into it. I'm already a business. Yeah. Well, this is great. I mean, thank you, David, for everything. Is there anything else you'd like people to go to or check out? Is the website kind of the best place to go to check out Wave?
Yeah, I think the two places to go are our website, so www.waveapps.com, and then you can search for our mobile app in the Google or Apple store. So you have it right on your phone. Lots there, and so look forward to helping more creatives, small business owners in the future.
Yeah, well, awesome. And thank you guys for the fund. I think that's amazing. So we're definitely going to get this episode out quickly. So if you guys are watching this crunch time, you probably got 7, 6, 5 days.
But one more question. Will be the fund renewed next year? So is it a thing like if people not making it in time, can they look out for maybe different funds in the future? What else is coming?
So we haven't gotten on the plan for next year, but certainly we're looking for more types of opportunities like this, always coming out with to our community about where they can get involved. So once we do have an idea of what's next, we'll be broadcasting that as widely and loudly as we can.
Oh yeah, we will kind of cover that. So I'm very curious about that for the creative funds. Like, yeah, it was a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, David. Yeah, keep in touch. If you guys ever have anything else you want to talk about, we'd love to have you back on. And yeah, thank you so much, man.